that's sheared off above that line where the cam cap seats. Hey. Okay. Well, slight disaster averted there. Um, that bolt I sheared off, I was cranking down on it with about 25 newton meters of torque, which was way too much. I was treating it like a cylinder head bolt. I got a bit mixed up. It was just a cam cap. Should have had between 10 and 14 newton meters of torque, but it was my fault. And it's a 40-year-old engine, 40-year-old bolt, a lot of stress in there. Cheap torque wrench, too much torque. It sheared, my fault. But just fortunate that it sheared off above the cut line on that cam cap, and was able to back it out with a very simple technique. Anyway, so as you can see, I've put them all back in. I robbed away a bolt from the set off the front, and I've gone online and I've managed to find myself a complete oil rail and all 4 bolts. Cost me 15 quid. I'd rather have not spent that, but parts of this age hard to come by. Didn't just want to use any old bolt because it is sort of fairly specialised. It's rolled, it's narrow at the neck, that goes through the oil rail, which is a banjo, same as on your brake lines where they hit the caliper. Needed to be the correct one. I probably could have done if necessary with something else, but I didn't want to. So that's that. And I have gone around and talked everything up towards the lower end of the value. So where I was cranking down on that with 25 and it should have been 10 to 14, I've done up to 12, and I did it in 2 or 3 stages. So all okay now. Just need to really wait on the parts arriving to continue with the front cylinder. The rear is nice and simple. You just need to line up the marks on the cam sprocket with the cylinder head, and obviously make sure your rotor's in the right position on the T1 and 3 position. On the front, slightly different, you need to make your own marks, so you kind of have to count back, but we'll do that and sort of show you how to do it anyway. But you just really need to pay attention to what it's directing you to do in your service manual. So I'm going to probably wait about a week now for these parts to turn up, as it's Easter, and for you, we're just going to skip straight forward. We are quite a few weeks down the line now. As you can see, if you can see clearly, I've now got 2 oil rails there. So this is the one I found on eBay. So yeah, the bolt I had to use from the front cylinder to replace the one I sheared in the rear, I've now got, along with all the other bolts and a rail that I don't need, but anyway, spare parts I could sell. I also managed to lose my service manual somehow. I had a workman in the house taking rather a keen interest in this bike and the engine, and I've got a feeling there were some light fingers involved. Can't say for sure, but I've hunted the house high and low and it's vanished. Anyway, wouldn't normally need it for general maintenance work or even engine rebuilds, to be perfectly honest, but I use it for service data. So if you're looking for tolerances, torques, clearances, that kind of thing, and also specific procedures with regards to cam installs. So I had to order a new one, came from the United States, so not only did I have to wait for that oil rail and bolts to turn up, which didn't take too long because that was sourced from within the UK, I did have to wait for a new Climber manual, which has arrived now. Anyway, going to crack on with installing the cams on the front cylinder. I am going to follow a slightly different procedure, so I'm not going to be making new marks on the cams or anything like that. So let's crack on and get these camshafts and everything else installed so we can finish off the top part of the engine. So literally picking up where I left off, the engine's in exactly the same position. I've got it in the 1 and 3 position on the rotor. I've got the cams in the same position where the index marks are pointing upwards, and I'm now going to just, well, I'll do it in a minute actually, because we'll install the tensioner first, but the next part of the procedure is to rotate this anti-clockwise 90 degrees to get it up into 2 and 4 on the timing mark. So, but let's get the cam chain tensioner installed, which is exactly the same process as the front. Let's just turn this around a little bit so we've got a bit of access. And like I said, I think when I strip this all down, it's a lot easier for me being a little fella working on the front, because this is much lower. I don't have to reach up and over everything. I can see what I'm doing. This can be a little fiddly. I did show you in the rear cylinder install me just positioning this arm so that I could drop a pin through to lock it in position, so it would take as much, well, just not put any tension on the chain, and you have to kind of wiggle and fiddle with this bit here to maneuver it. But yeah, it's a little bit stiff. I mean, it's an automatic system, so it doesn't like being messed with. Anyway, let me just see if I can finagle this into position. Oh, that wasn't too tricky, was it? Just don't forget to hook this out again as a last step. Right, okay, so I'm going to just install this now. It goes in that way. You can see I've still got the pin and R-clip etc. in there, so let's just grab that out. Try not to drop it into the engine. Ooh, he's there, so that nearly fell straight in the engine. But anyway, so it installs that way, so the slipper will go in there. So what you'll notice is, to leave it like that until I put the slip on. What you'll notice is that this faces towards the intake, whereas on the other side it faces towards the exhaust, and that's because they're both on the same side of the engine, clearly, because the engine both are rotating in the same direction, clearly. So let me get the slipper out and we'll install that. So get the chain on the right side, that'll help, won't it? So we'll just pop that like that. Take the tension off that. Fiddly sometimes, isn't it? You can make it harder for yourself, of course, which I'm probably doing. Let's put the washer back on. I don't think it makes any difference which side this goes through. Plenty of clearance in the cases. That's easy enough and gentle enough to do with your fingers. I think that literally just slipped in. So we just need to get the 4 bolts in as we did on the rear cylinder. That does seem to be sat in where it should be. You can kind of tell from the position of it at the top, it's kind of got nowhere else to go. Okay. I don't think these have got any specific torque value, so magnet. You're better off putting them in with a magnet, actually. It's a better idea, isn't it? So it finds its mark. Get something slightly longer. There you go, a little bit easier. These others will be easier still to install because now I've got 2 corners in. I don't need to try and line anything up. So I'll get all this installed with the chain and cams, and then I can do all of the valve clearances in one go. I think from memory they're all about 0.15 mil. I can't remember exactly, I think that's what it is, but what I do recall, I need to consult the service manual, but what I do recall is exhaust and inlet are exactly the same value. But as we get to it, it's a bit of a funny old system because you've got sort of 2 tappets on one rocker arm really, so it's a little bit awkward. You can check clearances from sort of 2 points really, either on the rocker arm underneath the cam or just underneath between the bottom of the adjusters and the valve retainer, which is the better place to do it because you'll get more of an even clearance across the 2. So what I need to do now is turn this 90 degrees anti-clockwise, so let's get a 17mm spanner on that, or socket, whatever takes your fancy. And you can see it's sat on, well, you probably can't see with all the light, it's sat on 1 and 3 at the moment, so 90 degrees will bring it up to 2 and 4, which are the front left, front right, which we're working on. And ideally, if there's 2 of you doing this, it's easier. So you don't get the chain on the front core. Obviously the rear now is free to turn, and I'm just holding the chain up. Try not to overshoot, but it's no major biggie. If you do, you can wind it back a little bit. You know, engine running speed or anything like that. And there you go. You should be able to see that the line, which is the shut line, if you like, of the cases, meets up with the line by the 2 and the 4 marks. So that's exactly where you want it. So that's the way the engine normally turns, of course, counterclockwise from the stator side. You can see that F mark that was just a few degrees above, a few degrees of arc above the timing line, and that's because it fires probably 10 to 15 degrees before top dead centre. It's fairly standard for engines. In the olden days, of course, you could adjust your timing mechanically using, you know, turning your dizzy, your distributor, using a timing light. Of course, this is all kind of hardwired in, if you like, mechanically. And the spark is controlled by the CDI, which is signalled by the pulsers mechanically, because they're on the other side of the engine on the starter clutch. Anyway, back to the job at hand. Good old gloopy assembly lube. Just making sure all the little oiling passages are clear, which they are. These have all been put through my makeshift parts washer. No issues. Right, so I'm going to lay these out in the order they're in, or I should say the order they need to go in on the bike, on the engine, on the block, on the front. So, HF5 B needs to go. Let's see if we can find that one. That's the one. Exhaust on number 4. So that is over there. HF10A, which is that one, needs to go on the exhaust number 2, which is right there. HF9A, which is this one, needs to go on the intake on number 4, which is right there. And then by default that one should be HF2B, which it is. And you can see they've already got themselves into position pattern wise. Visually it looks correct, and it is. So just need to lube these up a little bit. Keep them in their positions. And then we can go and slot the cams in.
Okay, I've pre-glued up the camshaft. So the sprocket in relation to the shoulder needs to sit on the right hand side. So it's the left the way we're looking at it, but we're we're not sitting on the bike facing forward, or almost reverse, if that makes sense. So anyway, this is the right hand side of the engine. So let's feed that through, and I need the identification marks on the shoulder facing up, roughly, and there you go. Okay, and I'm just going to line that little mark up, but I'm also going to give it half a tooth this way to allow for the cam chain tensioner to pull it in. Now, I haven't actually taken these sprockets off of these shoulders on the front, so these don't need any further tightening up. They're already fully Loctited in. I will need to go back and do the rear. So let me get the front cam on. We just need to loop this one up. This stuff really is treacly, but it's it's good for start-ups. Okay, so now we need the sprocket in relation to the shoulder on the left hand side of the bike, which is this way. Okay, and index marks facing up. Which could take a couple of goes. Let's pull that in. It's not as loose as you imagine they'll be, This can be an absolute mare to get the front cams in, but it is all just about doing it the right way. So don't put this in 1 and 3 and try and time it, or try and get the cams in all timed to the actual lines. It's in 1 and 3 at the moment because I've been turning the engine over to make sure it's all in time properly. Put it in 2 and 4, and then just count up 6 teeth. In fact, the actual timing lines between the teeth, so count up between the teeth 6 places for the exhaust, and down on the rear. You probably can't see that because not enough light. Anyway, and time to those marks while it's in 2 and 4, because that way the cams will be well away from the rockers, and even with the adjusters backed right off. And just coming over to my other bench, you can see I've actually taken the adjuster screws and bolts out just to completely give me some clearance. They'll foul at its work time, so put it in 2 and 4 and time it in that way, and they'll go in without a hitch. Make sure you back off the mounting bolts for the tensioner, so not finger tight but backed right off. Let it wiggle about. That way that really does take away all the tension off of the slipper. Obviously make sure that is in the first instance in its little slot, and you can I can't really show you from here, it's very difficult, but you can sort of stick a torch down there with one eye and you can see if it's in or not, and you can wiggle it in with like a long screwdriver. So make sure that's in, make sure those are backed right off, make sure it's in 2 and 4, make sure you've counted up 6 and down 6 on that one and time to those marks. Obviously making sure that your index marks are facing up on each of them and you've got the right one in the right place. And the other thing, make sure that you've got a really good strong pin in there. If you use a piece of wire or something like that, it just won't be strong enough to hold against the adjuster, and again that will put too much tension on the system. So make sure you get a good stainless pin or something like an Allen key or something like that. The hole inside on that piece is much smaller than the hole on the frame, so you could also drill it out so that you could get something bigger and more sturdy in there to give you a little bit more relief from tension. Those are all my tips for doing this, and then of course once it's all in, get it in the 1 and 3 position. If we can see, we're in the 1 and 3 position there. It's probably a bit blurry to be fair. You can see it now. And once you've got it in the 1 and 3 position, what you should have then is, if you come around to the back, the shoulder facing up with the index marks, it's the same on the rear and the same on the front there. And as long as they're all facing up with the index marks up or the index marks down with this in 1 and 3, then your engine is timed. And that is how you put it all together. So I've used quite a lot of assembly lube all over the cams, in the journals, on the caps, etc., on both sides, just to give it a good start anyway. I think the recommended thing is molybdenum disulfide grease, but assembly lube is made for the job. No idea what's in it, probably same similar stuff, but that's what I've used. So anyway, I'm going to go and get the bolts in, and we can torque this front up. And I think I still need to torque one of the bolts up in the rear, because watching back to make sure I checked all my torquing, missed anything, and I think I probably missed this bolt here by doing that one twice accidentally. So let's get all the bolts in. We'll get them all done. Drawn myself a little torque chart with the order of torquing and all the values, and it is as per the service manual, but it's too small in there, difficult to read, so I just thought I'd draw it out for myself just to make it a little easier. And let's grab those bolts. Okay, let's get all the rockers back in first before we put loads of other things on and can't get to them easily. I'm not going to be doing any adjustments until I've got everything in, or all the bolts in and everything torqued down. And I'm just getting them in place so that I've got room. Not absolutely sure of the torque spec on these bolts for the adjuster mechanism, but if I kind of go by all of the other top end bolts, I'm going to say 25 Newton meters will be okay on these bolts here. Right. Now I can pull my little pin out and hopefully everything should stay in alignment. Yep, that's not easy. See what I mean? The pin bends and then the tension that you released comes back on. So you do need a good strong pin. Right. So these were the bolts that I managed to, break, as in one of them. It was actually this one. These are the 4 little funnies that go in the corner that have a plain end. Don't know what the purpose of that is, but these are the 4 inner cam cap bolts, which are quite chunky. And this is the cam chain guide with its 4 very big bolts. They should all go in dry, and I've given them a bit of a clean with brake cleaner. I'm not talking these, I'm just driving them in quickly. Okay, that's those. Next is the outer crankcase bolts, which is those 4, which I think needs 30 to 34 Newton meters. So I need a bigger torque wrench, and this has got a 1/2 inch drive on it. Just making sure they're all seated, they're not tight, because back them all off when I first put the heads on. Some are more backed off than others. So I'm going to go 34 Newton meters on these. You can hear any clicking there, that's just the bolt clicking, not the actual torque wrench. That was the click I needed. And that one. And that one. And that one. Just give my last little check. Good. All good. Just get them seated. See, I'd driven them in but not sent them fully home, because I wanted to make sure that wasn't putting any strain on any part of the engine unevenly. Right, so they're all driven home, so let's just get them torqued to 21. Okay, so the oil rail bolts now are the next, and they just need 10 to 14 Newton meters, and just
drive those in with a ratchet first because it'll be less fiddly. But these are much smaller. You only need 10 to 14 Newton meters, and yeah, it was this one here I think that I sheared last time because I was just cranking down on it because I mixed up my values, and I think I was trying to put about 25 or 30 or some odd on it. Anyway, so I'm going to do it to 14 anyway, and let's go here, 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 here. You can see that is 14 Newton meters, and that's hardly any pressure on it. I must have been really going at it. Anyway, it just leaves the outer cap bolts now to do, and they are exactly the same. So just gonna seat those down. Oh, they're fairly well seated. That one's not. It's not even finger tight. Seat those down. And I guess this is why you probably need to sort of Loctite these things where they're not under huge amounts of torque. You need to make sure they don't come out, but you know, I don't like Loctite or any thread locker, so my preference is just to keep an eye on my engine. So that is all now top end back in, finished, and all that's left to do is to set the valve clearances. So I'm going to do that in the next video because that's a bit of a job on its own, and I'm going to leave it here. Well, that's it for this video on the old Honda VF750F rebuild. All the top end in. A couple of little jobs left to do on it actually. I just need to look at those sprocket bolts, just the sprocket retainer bolts, because I need to back those out, Loctite them in. They do need Loctiting in, and then in the next video on this engine I'm going to get all the valve clearances done, because that's just a job in itself. So I thought we could make a separate upload for that. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, and we'll get back to you, and we'll see you next time.